Did you do it?
Yeah. Okay, but I'm missing something. Okay. Click start next to the streaming software. Click go.
Like this is going?
Yeah. We're not prepared.
Hey team.
Hey.
I have a pimple that I need to cover up, and I don't know if I'm gonna make it worse.
Okay.
Really? That
Okay.
was my
Wait. No. I
mirror,
got you.
Tony.
There you
No,
go.
it's fine.
Oh, you can look in the TikTok one.
You're the tech man. It's more important.
I'm not. Do you know what's funny? I was a tech guy almost 20 years ago. Should we start it here too, since we're on?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, let's go live.
Time isn't real,
Okay.
so you're still a tech man. Oh, I'm not meaning to flip you guys off.
I know. Let me tell our moderators and the questioner person. Oh, they'll figure it out, right? That we're live. It says we're notifying viewers that we're live. Hey, Sid.
Hey, Dad.
What's going on? Are you still?
Unfortunately, my forehead got bigger.
Did it?
Over this weekend.
I look like a giant human being right now. Is that the angle?
No.
Yeah, which is something that's never really happened before where I've said that. Okay, here's the TikTok live. Okay, we got the questions over here, right here. Setting a timer during panic attacks. Hey, welcome everybody. Tonight we have a lot of content that we okay. I'm a little bit worried because we've actually planned things, and we usually don't plan anything. I mean, not like we have a scripted thing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, what was that like when I said, Sid, here's what we should talk about tonight?
I don't like thinking about what I'm going to talk about.
I know, I could tell.
Because it like gives me anxiety.
I could tell.
I'm like, what if I don't say what I was thinking and I'm not going to?
Well,
so
no, and for real, and I don't plan much of the things that I talk about, even on podcasts and interviews. It's funny because I'll have people that will say, can we set up a pre-interview? And I just kind of say, no, thank you. I do say thank you at the end of it because I don't want to rehearse it. We're just kind of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did ask you if we could talk about change, right? But then did you panic about that? Because did you think that you weren't sure what we were going to talk about with that?
Well, I don't know. I've like a weird relationship with change. Like I feel like I used to think that I loved it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I even knew like what it was. Like I think I actually just love distracting myself.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. In the name of change, in a sense.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I love change. I love when like nothing is ever the same, like in that kind of sense.
Yeah, like a good old ADD vibe.
Yeah, and I feel like it was like a way to avoid where I was mentally sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But now I feel like more recently in my life, like I've tried to actually like stop distracting myself and like see what things I want to change and like whatever, try
a little more intentional, take a little more action.
Yeah, okay. I guess.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
It sucks, but it's good.
Wait, like, which part sucks? The change itself?
Yeah. But like it brings like better feelings than any of the things you were doing before, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. Well, so some people, and I would love to know anybody who is joining us. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. We forgot about that part. And this is my daughter, Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
exactly. And then get your questions in. We've got some coming in already, and we'll answer your questions. We have a really good Reddit tonight that we're gonna have to delicately dance around some words and concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're good. They're really good. But we wanted to start out tonight talking a little bit about change, because I think that's one of those things where I had the dates wrong. I said this is dramatically our last live in California. And am I doxing us? Is that what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Dox, what does that mean?
I don't know. I just know this girl, like Sniper Wolf, did it to this guy.
Saw that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did. Okay.
Crazy.
Did you follow her when you were a kid or anything?
No.
Okay.
Did you?
No. I feel like there's a right. Like, wait, what is that? Were you making fun of me? Or no, I didn't. Okay, so that's what's funny is I saw the TikTok reaction videos. I always thought those were funny, but then I started watching the controversy behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But change. How did I get there?
I almost doxed someone once.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so. Okay, how do you think you spell it? I want to know what the origin is. Tell me your dox story.
No, I thought we were just gonna brush over and continue.
Oh, wait. You know what's funny? When I'm Googling stuff here, one of the things that came up was what was creepypasta? Were you ever a creepypasta person?
Yeah, I did like that actually.
Okay. Do you know what? Like, I had to go Google it, which sounds like I'm a really old man because it was a while ago. Do you know what it was though?
Isn't it just like scary stories and stuff?
Yeah. Why creepypasta though?
I don't know.
Okay. So what is the origin story of doxing? I must not be spelling it right. How do you think you spell it?
DOXING.
Oh, okay. Okay, here we go. Comes from an online hacker disputes in the 90s when dropping docs, like documents, referred to revealing a rival's identity. Since the tactic has evolved from the term docs, now it's DOX. So it's revealing hidden online identities. So we're not really doxing if we're saying that we're not going to be here anymore.
No.
But I'm not supposed to tell where we're moving, right?
No, but you already
like my
did,
address
so
and stuff.
fine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then get your questions in though, because we have my wife Wendy managing the questions. No questions on the board. Did we remind them that we were doing this tonight?
Who?
Your mom.
Oh, I don't know.
Doesn't mean like your mom.
Your mom. I can keep an eye on the questions too, just in case.
Okay. Let's do that. Wait, is that Madeline? Salad fingers are so legit scared. Do you?
I love salad fingers.
Okay. So creepypasta, and then T Money, is BPD overdiagnosed? We'll get to that one as well because that's a good question. We haven't talked a lot about BPD, but well, actually, yeah, borderline personality disorder. Okay, but change. Let me get to the part where I was going to talk about. And happy St. Patrick's Day today.
Yeah, you're not wearing green.
I know.
Bro.
Okay, and
Patrick would be pissed at you.
Patrick, do you know that it's all about Patrick Starfish? Like that's the origin of
Really?
Patrick's Day? No. When I was a young child, Sid, I was on a bus and I was going to school and I forgot to wear green and I got pinched like crazy. Did they do that when you were a kid?
No.
Are you serious?
I don't think.
Do you know about that?
I think like kind of as a joke, but not actually.
Yeah.
Like, is this like traumatizing for you?
Oh, for real? Because then I had this, I had this
Tony.
King Kong belt buckle for real, and it was giant.
Oh, that's why they were pinching you.
Let me finish the story. No, it was a very cool belt buckle at the time. I was very young. I was like in my 20s. No, I was less than 10, and I'm on this bus, and all of a sudden I'm getting pinched, and you're not wearing green. And then I was able to locate on the King Kong belt buckle one of the airplanes that King Kong was swatting down out of the sky. It was green. And I was able to say, oh, see. But then I had to go around all day.
All
No, I stopped getting pinched.
You went, look at my belt.
I pretty much did. I did. That's what I did for the rest of the day.
Poor Tony. Did you ever get thrown in a trash?
No, I wasn't that guy.
Oh.
I mean, look at me. I get all defensive. No, not me. Maybe set lightly in the trash, but I was never thrown in the trash. Wait, did you or anything?
No.
Okay, I really didn't. Yeah. Doxing. Okay, so change. The reason I was bringing this up though is you can kind of blame our species as why we don't like change, because it's only been the past few generations that we even started to change. Because in the olden days, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. You grew up and you lived on this farm, and everybody took care of the farm and made the food and picked the food and did all that stuff, and you played with like a rock and a stick or something.
Yeah.
And you thought it was awesome.
So it's like kind of like a safety mechanism kind of thing, right? It's like, what the people did before me is what I should do.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's all you knew though. So then really the only times you had to change is if you were kicked out of town by a bunch of robbers, or if the flood swept through, or your house burned down, or then you had to change. So then this is what I think is fascinating about things like anxiety, is that anxiety was there because every now and again you'd have to anticipate, oh man, do we have we got our land up high enough that we won't get flooded? And that would cause us anxiety. But now we can create anxiety around all kinds of what ifs.
Oh, anything.
Anything.
I can create anxiety around anything.
Any good examples?
Anything, like literally anything. Like I could convince myself that the ceiling was going to fall through right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And then it's like, man, I hope it doesn't. And what if it did? And have you ever,
And that's been something helpful with like talking to you about anxiety has been helping me like realize, okay, I can feel anxiety without having to have a reason for it, or like having to have like something that I need to find the solution to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's been helping me a lot. Cause like, I normally I feel like I would like wake up in the morning and it's like immediate anxiety. Yeah. And then I'm just thinking, okay, what can I connect? Like, what am I supposed to be worried about right now?
So like if I'm not worrying about something, something's bad.
Exactly.
So then you're worried about that. You're not worried about something.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it's like a spiral.
Yeah. And then that's all of a sudden now you got this, Willie says anxiety can be good if it keeps us alive. And I mean, again, that's where it's there. So, and that's one of those things where when you start to really allow yourself to feel your emotions, then there really is a quick check-in of, okay, so what is my anxiety trying to tell me about? And I'll pay attention to it if it's trying to warn me about something. But then if I feel pretty confident the ceiling is not going to fall down, thank you, anxiety. Now my chance to be present. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'd still feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still going to feel uncomfortable. And I think that what's interesting too is that we're identifying you're set to identify the worst. And I found some information I thought was really interesting too. So we know that we're emotional beings, like our emotions lead the way, but we're just continually stuffing our emotions from the time we're young. And I even watch people now where if they're trying to express emotion, they don't want to. So they like hide, they don't want to cry or they don't want to do anything like that. Like, do you try to hide your emotions?
No, everybody knows what I'm going through.
Do
I
they?
feel
Okay.
like.
Okay. Well, then I'm happy about
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
a good
Right.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. I physically can't. I feel like I show all of my emotions on my face.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that is like kind of a privilege, I guess, right? Because that means that I was like able to do that when I was younger too.
I mean, I was going to say, man, kudos to your dad,
Okay.
But-
Thank you
Okay. But then
for not traumatizing me.
too much. Talk about today, though. Today we were joking because then I felt bad, so I apologized to you for something that.
Oh yeah, guys, we got in a huge fight.
Gosh.
Just kidding.
Okay, no, explain. So we had to be out of our house. This sounds really funny, right? We had to be out of our house by a certain amount of time, or but for people that are looking to buy the house, and so then everybody was kind of hustling, and then
Sydney was not hustling.
Sydney maybe was taking her time.
I was doing my own personal version of a hustle.
It was, and I got that. But then as you were leaving, then we realized, okay, hey, you took your keys. By the way, how many keys are you aware of that you have right now? Do you know where both? No, but do you know both sets? The backup set of keys?
Deciding if I want to lie right now or not.
No, just be honest, Ed.
No, maybe not. Okay. I could, maybe no. I never know where anything is ever, technically. Like
the backup set of keys is important.
But if you give me 10 minutes,
yeah,
I could find a lot of things.
Okay, because one of my favorite trips though was when you had with the other car where you lost the second set of keys.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah, and it was parked a little bit illegally, and I ended up having an amazing time driving through the night down to Southern California, and we had a fun hang that weekend.
We did, didn't we?
We really did. I mean, we had a good time. I think that was when I was in my most mindful. Yeah,
I lost my keys at a frat party, which first of all, never go to a frat party ever.
Yeah, and
Don't
that was
do it.
And that was the backup set of keys.
The floors in there have literal like diseases coming off of them. I'm not kidding. They gave us a warning. They were like, really? You might get athlete's foot if you don't wear shoes.
That is okay. That is real. Yeah. Okay.
And Tony was gonna go and knock on the door and ask them for my keys, and I was like, this can't happen. This cannot happen.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it like I'm gonna get. I thought, hey guys.
No, that was very nice of you.
Yeah, I thought I could tuck my way down.
But no.
Yeah. Okay, so that one's so you don't exactly know where that second set of keys are. I almost feel like when you maybe don't know where that one is, I should go ahead and get another key. So we're always at like a rolling set of backup keys. Mm-hmm. But you had to move your Jeep today, and then I called, I FaceTimed, and I got nothing. So then you were probably busy, but then I maybe reached out to Hannah.
I had my phone. I don't know.
Well, that's the part that I felt bad about.
Sorry,
I felt bad about though because I reached out to your friend Hannah and I just said, "Hey, do you mind like maybe seeing if Sid can call me back?" And then I just said, "Haha" or something, and then you did right away, and that's where I felt bad. So I texted you later, and I said, "Hey, sorry, that wasn't a cool move," and you just said you didn't look at it that way.
I honestly didn't.
You didn't?
No, I seriously didn't. But that was nice of you for being considerate of my feelings.
Sounded like that was annoying.
No, it was just cheesy.
Oh, it's cheesy. Okay. But I did. But I will tell you, here's what I'm going to be like. And that, parents, is what you need to do. But I really did. I wasn't just trying to get rid of my discomfort by apologizing, but I realized that was an impulsive thing that I did because I really wanted to get a hold of you right away. And in the future, that probably would not have been, I guess I could have.
I don't even think it was a big deal. Okay. Like if you can't reach my phone, of course you're going to call someone else.
I would think so.
And I never have my phone. Okay. And even when I do, it just doesn't seem to work for me.
That's fair. That is.
But I'll be more wary of it. I'm sorry.
So, okay, before we go, we'll answer some of the questions. Willie talked about getting a tile for his phone and his wallet. And I think that that's good, but I swear.
I need a tile for my body. Like I just need to attach it to my.
Okay, look at this though. So I got an Apple AirTag. I got it for my AirPods after I lost them, but then I didn't like the way it fit in there. So now I have this and I don't put it on the actual AirPods. So that's one of those things. I think we talked about this with ADHD, where I can buy all the to-do lists in the world, and I can have all the different tools. I can set reminders, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to use them the way that they're supposed to be used. So that's good on Willie there for doing that for real, right? Yeah. Okay, but I wanted to ask you real quick though on change, because you've gone a lot of places in the world. You've gone to Egypt a couple times for what, month or two at a time, and you went to Spain or Italy, Spain for a while, Costa Rica for a while, and you're still pretty young. And so that change, what was that like? I mean, was that scary, or like what got you to do those things?
It was, it was like scary, but like, I don't know. I feel like it was like a huge opportunity for me to grow, you know? And like, it was like a good way for me to just kind of be able to like throw myself in situations that I wouldn't normally like put myself in, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that it was like a good thing. It was scary, but like, yeah, I feel like we're like humans are like so scared of change because like you're scared that like you're gonna fail or like something bad is gonna happen, you know? But I feel like those like failing and like the bad things are like what make you stronger and like a better.
They are.
Yeah. And it's like I'm super grateful for like changing and messing up, you know? Like I feel like it always ends up being like good, you know?
Okay. So
or maybe not. I don't know.
I mean,
if you're,
but
like going
it's
through like
something.
a cult or something, that's not chill.
Actually for real, right? That was that. I'm not. Yeah. So we're anti-cult. We're pro-change. Is that what we're saying? But I think what was interesting is the. So we said, how old are you? You are 21.
Wow.
22.
Fake father.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I knew that. 22. Talk about though Costa Rica, and that's one too where if somebody's listening to this and they're saying, "Oh, you just got to pick wherever you want and go," but you volunteered at an animal shelter for your room and board, and right, yeah, and then you want to try to figure out another place to go next. Yeah, any ideas on that one?
I don't know. You guys tell me where.
I know, right? I was wondering if anybody here has that kind of stuff. Then, right, that would be kind of fun. Okay, so do we jump into the? Well, let me look here. We've got mean to be 437. They like you.
Thanks, bro.
Firefiler Tony. What advice do you have for those in high stress, dangerous workplaces to help avoid developing PTSD? That's a good one. Firefiler is the name of the account. So I'm wondering if this person is a first responder.
Flyer? Is that what you're trying to read?
Flyer. Oh,
Fire flyer.
Fire flyer. That's like a tongue twister to me. Fire flyer. So, but if I do get a chance to work with some first responders, and that's a tough job. People that come upon first responders to a scene and accidents. And so when you're working with people that are in these high stress environments, I would just say one of the very best things you can do is have a therapist and a support group. And I think a lot of times people that get into those situations almost take pride, at least the people I've worked with, and feeling like they don't have to do that. They can handle it. That's just part of the job. But then down the road, I have found that often people that have had to learn how to become more like detached or disassociated or hardened in their job, then they bring that into their home life, and then they're unable to then really connect sometimes with their spouse or their kids. And so when we talked before, the more that you can talk about scary things with people that are supportive and don't tell you, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have done that, or why did you do that, or why didn't you do it this other way, then your brain starts to associate some of the scary with safety. And then in that scenario, then you're able to process more. But I also think some people maybe just aren't quite, everybody doesn't need to have a job like that. I mean, I remember thinking, not that I ever really wanted to be a doctor or a dentist. I thought about it at one point, but man, if I see blood or open wounds, I mean, I did a ride along with a friend of mine who was an ER physician, and I couldn't do it. I mean, or how are you with that kind of stuff?
Well, no, I had something else to say.
Okay, yeah, say it.
I feel like with that, because a lot of people can't choose, you know, what job they get, you know, like it's just about money. And so I feel like in those situations, it's important to like, when you talk about like self-care and like, like really having like a system before and after work where you can like de-stress and like protect your energy. And like, I feel like that's really important in situations like that.
Yeah.
And even in your job, like with therapy, like you should be doing that, you know? Because like you take on a lot of other people's emotions and like energy, and like that's draining, you know?
Yeah, it is. And it's that funny thing where you feel sometimes almost a little bit silly, where if somebody says, how's your day? And if you saw, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 clients, and you come home and you're mentally exhausted, but then I'll have clients that are in my office that do physical manual labor, and then they're they're physically exhausted, I'm more mentally or emotionally exhausted. And it does at times feel like nobody's going to understand that. Like they would understand if you built a house or something in an afternoon. I don't know. That probably is very quickly to build a house. But yeah, you carry one person's emotions or trauma from the next to the next, and it can be taxing.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be where like meditation could be nice.
Yeah.
I like all the dumb hippy dippy stuff. Because like even if it doesn't work, it's like I feel like you're setting the intention for it to work.
Yeah. Well, and we
like sage and stuff. So
okay, I'm burning this candle of yours tonight that you got me. That one's one that it's supposed to bring financial reward, I believe.
Let's go.
Right, and then we got one more over here.
Where's the money?
I lost. Oh, that is the money. I don't know what this one was. The one that I heard this. The one that we're burning tonight is what is the herbal magical candle? Oh,
but yeah, I feel like just like if things make you feel better, it doesn't matter if that it actually works. Like that is it working, you know? So just like self-care, like that's really important. Yeah,
I agree. And that was on the change thing too. I was like that topic because the more that you are doing, the more you interact with people, and the more you interact with people or places or things, then you have reactions and you start to learn more about yourself. Okay, the walkabout. Are y'all still experiencing paranormal activity? This is your department.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I forgot about that.
Okay,
so I guess probably not that much. Oh, wait. I feel like something creepy happened to me. I named the ghost Casper or Caspy.
I was gonna say Casper is not very original. No offense.
And wait, I don't think I told you guys what happened. There was like some weird. I told you about it, but just like stuff kept moving around my room all the time, like little toys, like because I have stupid little toys, and they just kept like I kept finding them in like I'd have like this little trinket on the top of my shelf, and then it would be like 3 drawers down, like in the back of a drawer. Which is so me. Like I again don't know where anything is ever.
Yeah.
But it was like weird stuff like that.
Yeah. So if you weren't my kid or the clients that I work with, I mean, until I heard more and more stories like this from people that I really know and trust. It's funny because I used to just not really think much about this, but then there's a lot of stories like this and right, moving things. Now, I don't know if this is the time where Mackie, who is moderating, lets you know that she sneaks into your room and moves stuff around. What would you?
That would be strange.
Okay, it really would, right? Seska Trend says, can somebody give me a short description of this creator? So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and have a few podcasts, Waking Up to Narcissism, The Virtual Couch. We have one called Murder on the Couch. And you're looking at me. Oh, you looked at me funny. Like I thought, did I say it wrong?
No.
Okay. The Mind, the Mirror, and Me, Love ADHD. And then got a book about addiction and then some courses. And so we are giving relationship advice. So please ask anything in the questions.
And I'm here to fill the silences.
Okay. But you've been last live, you had a lot of good data, which it almost, should we jump into the Reddit story? Because I think that there's so much here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Sid has a Reddit story that I think is really good. It's a relationship based one, but you are going to have to slow it a couple of times when you talk about intimacy. Because
TikTok is baby.
Yeah.
I will do that.
And we're also on, we're for the 3rd time now, we're over here on YouTube live as well.
What are you giggling at?
Because it's so funny where you can have like, it's 4,500 on TikTok so far.
78.
Or well, I mean like a total overall so far. See right there. Yeah. But at the time. And then over on YouTube, the camera's on. So that's fun.
Big move.
That's right. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it. Wait, before you go further, do you want to do this? I'm convinced my home is haunted. Sometimes I hear doors open and close, but I'm the only one home. Like, what would you say to that person?
Oh, same. Honestly, that's creepy.
Okay, wait. Yo.
What?
No, you go.
I don't know what I was gonna say.
Oh, I just this one that just came in from Lauren. 101 Music. During college, I was a janitor in a hospital at night. I heard things in the old surgery hall. Nico, I'm convinced my house is haunted sometimes. LOL. I hear doors open and close, but I'm the only one. And I will say I feel like I've worked with probably every profession in a sense. And I've worked with probably 3 or 4 people that worked in the funeral industry, and they all have stories, like so many stories. And that's where one of the first places where I just thought, oh man, this is kind of wild. You know?
Well, there's like more like research out on it than people realize, right? Like, isn't there like FBI like documents about it and stuff. Like I don't know because I don't actually do any of this research.
Yeah.
But I swear there's like more like facts about like energy and stuff that we don't like know. Like it can't be destroyed or taken away or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're definitely real.
Dog. Okay, Sheldrake dog experiment. Have we talked about this one?
No.
Let's do this one, and then we'll go to the Reddit story because this is kind of plays into this. So Rupert Sheldrake is he was very, very well known in the scientific community, and then he started getting maybe not as much support by the scientific community because of some of the things where he started doing research like this. So here's the title is A Dog That Seems to Know When His Owner's Coming Home, Videotaped Experiments and Observations. So many dog owners claim that their animal knows when a member of the household is about to come home. I guess, how do you know?
Yeah.
Right? Typically, the dog is said to go and wait at the door or a window or a gate while the person is on the way home. Sheldrake, and that's from 1994. Then random household surveys in Britain and the United States have shown that between 45 and 52% of dog owners say they've noticed this kind of behavior. So if you're at home and I'm coming home and Kobe or something goes up and just sits by the door, and then all of a sudden I come in, a lot of times we'll think, well, they heard the garage door open, that it was like that. It was that soon. And so then dog owners often ascribe their animals' anticipations to telepathy or a sixth sense. But there could be a more conventional explanation. First, the dog could
they smell you?
That's what it said. Okay, great. First, the dog could be hearing or smelling its owner. Second, the dog could be reacting to routine times of return. Third, it could be responding to subtle cues from people at home who know when the absent person is returning. I kind of like that. So if all of a sudden, if I keep looking at my watch, I'm kind of thinking, man, they should be home, and I'm putting out the same anxiety, that maybe the animal would then think, oh, when the person does this, usually somebody comes walking in the door. Fourth, the animal may go to a place at which it waits for its owner when the person's not on the way home, and the people at home only remember the anticipation when the person returns, so like confirmation bias a little bit. But so in order to test these possibilities, the dog should be capable of reacting at least 10 minutes in advance. The person whom the dog responds to should come home at non-routine times, and the people at home should not know when the person's coming, and the behavior of dogs should be recorded in a way that selective memory can be ruled out. So this was what this guy started studying with all of these different experiments. And so then he got this JT from Manchester Dogs Home in 1989 when he was a puppy. He is adopted. This owner had a close bond with him. And so then over the course of a few years, then he started testing all of those theories. And I'll just get to we'll skip all the methods, the experiments with random return times, observation in different environments. So then they started videotaping him, and they analyzed these like blind studies of when he would come home. So he wouldn't know when he was going to come home. And the dog would still go over and wait for the owner at random times, depending on, they never knew quite when the owner was coming. The people in the house didn't know either. And so then, it got really, so the statistical analysis was like laid out. And then in the overall results was that JT, the dog, was at the window far more when the person was on their way home during the main period of their absence. When all of JT, the dog's visits to the window were included in the analysis, he was at the window for an average of 55% of the time during the first 10 minutes of their return journey, as opposed to 4% of the time during the main period of their absence. So it showed that well over half the time, the dog, regardless of what time the person was coming home, would go up to the window and wait within 10 minutes of the person getting home. So what is that?
Oh,
see what I'm saying?
What's his conclusion?
Yeah, that there's a sixth sense. Or feels the energy or whatever. So that's the stuff where I start hearing that. And look at, it's got all these little graphs, and that looks like science, right?
Sure.
Yeah, right.
But this has me thinking, what is like the life of a scientist? Like, can you just do whatever? Like, can you just do experiments for fun? Whatever.
If somebody will fund
just
them.
Out here watching dogs.
I think.
Through windows.
Nick's here, Mr.
Keep
Therapist.
up the good work,
What's up, Nick? Well, and I know on one a long time ago we talked about one of my favorite studies where they put little jackets on mice when they were going to be intimate with their female mice friends. Do you remember this study?
Kind of. I don't know.
Oh, so this one's I've got a whole podcast on this one, and then we're gonna get in the Reddit story. But it was talking about they were kind of starting to test the theories around that. They were really almost calling it fetish like behavior. So take 20 mice, for example. Now the
scientists had a fetish?
No, they were studying this concept. And I'm going to let you know right now, I can pull it up and we could go specifically, but I know this is not exactly how the research was, but it was as if they had 20 mice, 10 of them, they gave them little mouse jackets to wear. and then 10 of them didn't have mouse jackets. And then they proceeded to watch and follow the mice as they became acquainted with their lady friends. Okay. So then they took the mice and then they randomized who got to wear a jacket. And so then the ones that had worn jackets and then they didn't have a jacket were still able to have a wonderful experience taking their lady friend out on the town and then getting close with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that did not wear a jacket, and all of a sudden if they had a jacket on, then they could not enjoy the time with their lady friend.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but all, yeah.
Does that have something to do with change?
It could.
Full circle.
Full circle. But I just thought that was a fascinating one when you just say, do scientists get to do whatever they want? I mean, that one, I mean, who pitched that one? And then I love that. I want to imagine this is completely made up. It was at a college in Canada that then they go reach out to the fashion department. And then they said, we need 10 little jackets for mice. And that somebody went all in on that.
Oh, like, yeah, I would.
Sequins, like a little patches on the back. I don't know. Okay. I want I want a pet mouse with a little jacket. He would be so cool. He would. Like he would be very cool. Dogs got spidey senses, Nico. I think so. Okay.
Maybe
Bob, we'll
people
get to that
do
question
too, though. You know how like when sometimes you'll be like standing somewhere and you can like feel someone staring at you and then you turn around and they are like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe I believe that there's like a lot more things around us that we are aware of, but we don't even really know we're aware of, you know?
Yeah, no, that's one that I think I started. That was my first venture into maybe that, what is, I was going to say psychodynamic world. That's a therapy concept. What are aliens and stuff called?
Aliens? What are aliens called?
No, it's not that. The paranormal.
Oh,
the world of the paranormal.
Yes.
It was like energies or vibrations or frequencies. That was where I started thinking, oh, okay, I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just feel like a connection with somebody on a level that's just deep.
Yeah. Or how I kind of relate to it is like, I feel like a lot of times, especially if it's someone I'm close to, like I can kind of just like step into the room with them and like feel how they're feeling before they say anything, you know what I mean? And I feel like that there has to be something there because it's like you haven't spoken a single word, but you can like feel the energy coming off of a person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if you can like strengthen that or if it's just like intuitive or whatever.
I think, and we haven't talked about this in a little while, but the highly sensitive person. So if somebody goes to hsperson.com, there's a lady named Eileen Aaron. She's kind of the founder of this concept, and the scientific name is sensory processing sensitivity. And it's just this belief that you have heightened senses, heightened mirror neurons, that you do feel more than others. And I like on her website, it says your trait's normal. And this is interesting. She says it's found in 15 to 20% of the population. So this is what's wild. It's too many to be a disorder, but it's not enough to be understood by the majority of those around you. And so then if you're more aware of other subtleties, this is because your brain processes information and reflects on it more deeply. So even if you wear glasses, for example, you see more than others by noticing more. So like you might smell more, see more, sense more. Do you feel like you have some of that?
Well, I don't think that I would know that I can do that because it's all that I know. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like what if I have more smell than, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like whatever you have is what you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
But I guess I can relate to some of it. Like I cry constantly. Is that part of it?
Can be.
Like
feeling.
Not just sad things. Like everything will make me cry. Like good things, bad things. Anything.
I mean, that would be a little more sensitive. And the belief is that, and here's where, when we were praising you earlier for if you don't have as much fear of change, that I was joking, that means, you have good parents who supported you and said, go and take on the world. But if you are more highly sensitive, then the belief is that you might have grown up in a little bit more of a home where you were trying to read the room and just try to see, all right, what's the vibe? How's everybody feeling or doing? And so that then over time develops that sensitivity.
I could maybe see that in relation to like being like really religious growing up.
Yeah.
I think that was probably a situation where I had to like balance everyone else's emotions. Not that their emotions were too much, but I didn't understand. I just don't think I had a very good understanding of why things were the way that they were.
Oh, I like that set. I do. And this is where the more I think about this one, it's that concept of where if you're going throughout life, not sure if you're doing it right. And because if there are these rules, then I do feel like that makes sense. Then you might be a little more sensitive to like, okay, is this person upset? Are they happy? Did I do it okay?
Mm-hmm.
In that seeking validation and trying to avoid the shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was kind of, it didn't really feel like it didn't feel right for me, but I was being told that it was right, and it was right for other people. It totally can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that can confuse you, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I like Zebulon Salyer says it's called being empathetic. You can strengthen your psychic abilities, and I agree.
Ooh.
I know, right? And it is
Cool.
that that empathy, trying to get in there and feel what other people are feeling. But the way it's strengthened, and I have this on that Eileen Aaron's website. I like that she says sensitivity is valued in different cultures, and cultures where it's not valued. Highly sensitive people tend to have lower self-esteem because they feel like they're people love to say, don't worry about it, get over it, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then imagine, I always say, when I did my first podcast on this, I had this guest named Nikki Eisenhower, and her podcast is amazing. It's called Emotional Badass. I don't know if I can say that, but she's a very highly sensitive person. I highly recommend her podcast. But when she came on, she talked about it's because you've been told for so long, don't worry about it, get over it, it's not a big deal, they didn't mean it, you took it wrong. And so that can start to give you lower self-esteem because you're being told, in essence, don't be too sensitive, even though that is how you're feeling.
Yeah, I feel like that's especially a prevalent problem, like with like men and boys, right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know this because I'm not a guy, but I've like heard guys in my personal life like talk about this, and they'll say like that one specific guy that I'm thinking of. I can't speak for all men. I mean, you're a guy, so you tell me.
I am indeed.
But this guy said that like he felt like he couldn't be emotional because that was seen as like a weakness.
Absolutely.
And like if you like cry or if you show empathy, it's like you're not an alpha.
Right. Yeah.
Gosh, don't ever say that.
No, this is so good. I brought up when in my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, the majority of my listeners are female. And so then most of the feedback I get are from women talking about the men in their lives that are more emotionally immature, narcissistic. And then I will get negative feedback of people saying, hey, it's just as prevalent with women, but it's not. And I pull up this study often. It's from the University of Buffalo, and 3 decades of data, more than 475,000 participants. So that's a pretty broad study, almost 30 years and 500,000 participants. A new study on narcissism from the University of Buffalo School of Management reveals that men on average are more narcissistic than women. And I just like having this it's just, if we kind of start from there, we're not trying to blame anybody, because it goes into what you were saying. There's a really interesting comment in some of the data that says, compared with women, men exhibit more assertiveness and desire for power, but there was no difference in the exhibitionism aspect, meaning both genders are equally likely to display vanity or self-absorption. So that's where why I like to often refer to it more as emotional immaturity, is that we're all emotionally immature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's 100% not to say that guys are just narcissistic at all. I think it's like, it has to do with the society that we've like created for men, and like how we've like taught them. Oh, and this is like over time, like over like all of time, it's kind of been like this. It's like you're supposed to have like the guy is like the leader of the house, and he can't, break down. And then it's like for some reason the mom is supposed to be crying all the time. It's so weird. But I think in reality it's like it's a superpower to have empathy and to be emotional and to be able to tap into that. It's like so useful and good. And if you push it down, it will come back up.
Yeah. And sometimes even in chronic pain or extreme anxiety, or there's a thing called conversion disorder where your body will process that in some way. And that's why, again, I love being a therapist, talk therapy. People talk through those things, and then they feel safe, and their body says, oh, so it's okay that we have emotions. But we go back to the men part of this, and this is interesting. It says, let's see, individuals tend to observe and learn gender roles from a young age and may face backlash for deviating from society's expectations. This is one of the researchers. They said, in particular, women often receive harsh criticism for being aggressive or authoritative, which creates pressure for women more so than for men to suppress those displays of narcissistic aggressive behavior. And so then a lot of times then men, if they are trying to express emotion or feeling, then they will often get teased or, rub a little dirt in it. It's not a big deal, that sort of thing.
Someone said, don't you think that is open to change as our culture has been evolving?
Yeah, I do. And then Nick commenting, there it is. But with any societal change, you see resistance to change, right now, specifically with men. Okay, this is why I love seeing this kind of conversation go on in the comments too. Because Tom, you're right. Nick, that's a great comment, because therapists working in this space, I was really intentional with that waking up to narcissism title of the podcast, because people throw out narcissism like it's 80% of the population, but it's really 3 to 5% of the population would be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. But I think everybody is emotionally immature. And so the more that we're able to have these conversations and we're able to accept that our feelings maybe are okay, especially guys, then I think that we'll start to see a shift, but people are going to really push back. And there might even be a power imbalance for a while too, because the people that double down on that narcissistic behavior and are not expressing as much empathy or not allowing themselves to sit with the discomfort of emotion and feeling, then, they may then try to just run right through or over the men that are trying to change that dynamic. I mean, that's just one of my thoughts.
Yeah. And I think it is like you say, like some people really don't see change as a good thing at all. And that,
way to tie it back.
That again, right? And that's like where this, I don't know, it can be like really toxic, especially in like situations like this. But
man, there's so many good stuff here. That was so good, Sid. And I see the cultivated oasis. What do you think about this idea of children focusing on their problems and therapy being unhelpful? You got any thoughts on that?
What therapy?
Yeah, this is good. It's a great question. So when people will often say to me, do you think my kid needs to go to therapy? And the first place that I come from is that I'm not a kid or a child therapist. So I don't know what I don't know about working with kids in therapy, but I understand that at times, because kids go through some traumatic things. And so I know that being able to, that safety, being able to process things really helps, and even through play and art and being creative. But I also have worked with parents, because I used to work with more teenagers who, when the parent feels like they haven't done enough, that then they say, hey, if I put my kid in therapy, then I'm good. I did all I can do. When the issue might really be about the parent learning to get some parenting techniques or skills or tools, and then learning how to interact with the kid more. I'm trying to nicely say, become a better parent, be a more present parent. So, and I know that didn't exactly answer that cultivated oasis, but I do feel at times where if a kid doesn't see, it's so hard to say though, because I mean,
it is an interesting topic, because isn't there like this, like, I feel like when you're a kid and you go through something really, really traumatic, you don't process it at all right away.
Right, for sure. When you don't know what you don't know, so you're just being and doing.
But that's also not to say that getting therapy wouldn't be helpful. I feel like it still would be helpful, talking about it, especially if like you have parents who you can't talk about it too.
And so that's so even as I'm saying that, if a parent's just air quote shirking their responsibility by not wanting, because they don't know what they don't know. That's where there's just we think in terms of black or white, all or nothing thinking, just all the time. See, I just did all or nothing that often. And so then it's not as easy as saying a parent that doesn't feel like they know what to do if they're sending a kid to therapy because they don't know what to do and they think that's amazing. But if they're saying, hey, I just don't really feel like doing it, so kid, go to therapy, and even if the kid is almost at this point where they're almost feeling like they're punished for that, then I mean that can be a negative experience as well. Because I know that when I worked with more teenagers, I would always, for real, all or nothing now, I'm so aware of that, say that, hey, I don't have a magic pill, magic wand. If you did not go to your parent and say, man, I would love to go see this little old bald guy and talk about all my problems, even though I'm a 15-year-old kid, that, then we've got this time and I just want to hang out and get to know you. And what I felt like with teenager therapy in particular was it was really playing the long game in a sense, where I'm just going to build a rapport and a relationship with this person so that then when and if they get to a point where they decide that they need help or want therapy, now they don't have a negative association with what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great because it's like if it is a situation where the parent is just trying to put like a band-aid on a bullet wound and just like throw them in there, you know, and not do any of the work themselves.
Yeah.
Then all you can do is just be for that kid, be there for that kid, because like obviously they don't have that at home. Yeah. So that's cool.
It is. And I do. So here I'm saying I didn't do kid therapy. The reality is that when I was in grad school, you have to do what's called a practicum. Well, when you're still getting your master's, you have to do therapy at a nonprofit. You don't get paid for it. And so I didn't really understand all the rules that were going on. So I was one of the last people to go find a practicum site. So I did spend 6 months with the Child Abuse Prevention Council of our local county. And I worked with mandated people. And so I would work with the kids, but I got really good at Jenga. I found some studies that said I wasn't supposed to beat them until they were like 8, I think. That got really hard sometimes, where some little 7-year-olds beat me at Candyland. I'm like, when's your birthday? You know? It's like, okay, come back here.
You're not supposed to beat them until they're 8?
You know what's funny? Well, that sounds bad. Don't I slip that clip? Right?
Don't beat your children.
But no, the theory, it's really funny though, because you know, you really want to help build their self-esteem and confidence. But when I would have some little 7-year-old talking smack while he's beating me at Candyland, where I was like, I could really.
Oh, he's getting punted.
That's right. That's right. Even they'd say, hey, he's done with therapy now. And I'd be like, really? Is he? So it's like what, 7 and a half? Okay, I don't know. Maybe he'd want a little check-in on his birthday, maybe the day after. And it's like, yeah, bring that Candyland. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, so you can play some board games.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's such good stuff. Let me, Nick, I like this one a lot. I heard anger coined as an umbrella emotion before because it can conceal other emotions in us men. Absolutely. Do you remember we talked about primary and secondary emotions? Does this one ring a bell?
No.
I can bust out my feelings wheel.
Ooh, yay, my favorite.
Okay, Sid, how are you feeling right now? Every therapist is required by law, the feelings wheel. Okay. Because feelings are much like waves. We can't stop them from coming, but we can choose which ones to surf.
I zoned out. What?
It says this thing right here.
Feelings are much like, oh.
Yeah. But so on the center of the feelings wheel, we will find that there is fear, anger, disgust, sad, happy, and surprise. And then on the next round, then there's like by anger, hurt, threatened, hateful, mad, aggressive, frustrated, distant, critical. And then on the third rung there's a bunch of them: embarrassed, devastated, insecure, jealous, resentful, violated, furious. And so the theory here with primary and secondary emotions is that I may be embarrassed, but rather than expressing my embarrassment, I jump to the secondary emotion of anger.
Oh.
Yeah. So Nick, yeah. So I like that question a lot because that wait, therapist man, is that Erickson stages? Don't beat them to build competency. Oh, he's talking about not winning in Candyland. Yeah, there's a little bit of that in there. But the secondary emotion of anger. So the theory there is that when you are aware of what the secondary emotions are, then you can learn to sit with those primary emotions, and that's more powerful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that I like that. And that totally be with women too, right? Like women can have anger issues.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I feel like I do that a lot of times. Like I'll be like super upset about something and I'll be like, why am I even mad? Like that's not what I want to be feeling, but then it is what you're feeling.
Yeah. So that's why I put out a challenge to all those listening. First of all, to subscribe to us. Here we are, World's Worst Salespeople, an hour in or whatever, like $3, $4 a month. And we answer your questions live behind the scenes, right? But
so not live.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But the feelings, the primary emotions is that your homework would be if you notice that you're reacting, whatever the reaction is, then maybe sit with it for a second and just see what's maybe underneath that. I know when I feel a lot of sadness, I go to humor. Humor as a secondary emotion is my go-to. I've even hypothesized, this is me making this part up, that I've gone to humor for so long as a secondary emotion that I almost feel like it is my primary emotion. And I almost feel like everything starts from a place of humor in my mind. And then so I've had to really stop and allow myself to feel some of the bigger emotions. But I know I need new bits, but I just talk about when you guys were young and you would scare me that, if an adult gets angry when they get scared, that's the secondary emotion, because I think the primary emotion is embarrassment or fear, because, oh my gosh, this little kid embarrassed me or scared me, and then for some reason we don't think that should be okay. But fear and like being scared is a natural reaction. So instead, then, oh my gosh, you scared me. That's the right answer, not, hey, knock it off. Like, don't scare me like that.
Mhm.
Because then the kid says, wait, why so mad?
What
Yeah.
can you do to like find how you really feel? You know what I mean? Like, what can you
Yeah.
do to get to that secondary emotion? Like, is that just meditation?
Yeah, I would say it's everything, not everything. So much goes back to building in the pause. And then also anybody listening tonight, if you weren't aware of the concept of primary and secondary emotions, now you were aware. You didn't know what you didn't know. Now you know, and you're not going to always know what to do about it. You won't recognize it. So even if you recognize it in hindsight, then that's a really big thing, a good thing.
Mhm.
And so then eventually you'll catch those as they're happening, and then over time you will just be someone that is able to sit with that primary emotion, and that's mature right there.
So
Yeah.
will there wait, what did you say? Is there a time when you'll
Mhm.
skip the dumb
Yeah.
emotion and you'll go straight to the
That's the
real
bullet.
one?
Yeah, this is, I
That
mean,
would be cool.
it
When
wa-
is
it's
that gonna
it,
happen?
it takes time, and this is, you might be familiar when this is the concept that you don't know what you don't know, and then you know it but you don't do it very often, which is one of the longest like places that you're in. And that's really frustrating because sometimes that's where people say, man, I wish I wouldn't have even known, but you do,
Mhm.
because you're on the path of growth or enlightenment.
Yeah. Well, I get what you're saying though, because that can be the part where like so much guilt and shame comes in, because it's like, why haven't I been doing this my whole life, every
Yeah.
day, every second?
Totally.
But that's just like,
Just a
that's
thought.
no way to live, you know? Like, it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, it's weird. I feel like a lot of like my life recently has been realizing that you can kind of choose how you feel, and not in every situation.
Right. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Like at all, because like there's people with like anxiety. I mean, anxiety, I can't choose when I feel anxious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have been like finding that there's like kind of like a lot of times there's like two pathways you can
Yes.
take in your head, like
I like that.
even if it is just like negative or positive.
Mhm.
And whether that even is your reality in that moment, whether like it really does feel negative or not, you can still kind of just like lean down that positive route, I feel like.
Yeah.
And like that can lead to you feeling better and changing and
Yeah.
all that.
And it doesn't have to
All
be
that
a
good
big,
stuff.
broad sweeping, now I feel amazing.
Yeah,
But
no, baby steps.
But I love what
yeah.
you're saying, because that's the one where you notice a feeling in a moment, and then instead of beating ourselves up or what's wrong with me or I just need to not think it, and those are the things that I think are the wrong tools that are being used often. So then it's like, oh, check it out, I notice I'm feeling anxious. Now what do I do? I think we talk about that, where that's really the choice point, is what do I do with that anxiety? Do I allow it to sit with me for a minute? Do I thank it if I want to get really kind of hippie? Thank you, anxiety, because I've been shoving you away for so long. There you are. Welcome aboard. But now let's go to lunch. And then your anxiety can come with you, and it'll probably still chirp at you. It's still probably saying,
It will.
It will, right? There's a metaphor in acceptance and commitment therapy that's it's about the riders on the bus, and it talks about how you're the driver of the bus, and you're driving, and then people keep coming up and they are trying to tell you where you need to go. You got to turn right here, or you missed that turn, or I can't believe you're going over here. And so when you finally get really frustrated with that rider, then you just want to say, okay, fine, I'll turn this way. But then they're just like, oh, okay. But then they don't go sit down. They just keep coming at you and coming at you. So it's like learning how to, you're in control of that bus that you're driving. And then you can acknowledge all the different drivers or the riders and what they're saying. But over time, as you pass the stop that they want you to get off on, you realize, oh, I'm still in control of the bus. It's not so bad. So, but we often let them tell us where we need to go, what we need to do. And that alleviates that anxiety for just a moment. But then there it is. It's kind of back again. Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be like in distracting yourself? Is that what you mean by that?
I mean, it can be. It's like that. What do we do to alleviate our anxiety? And sometimes it's okay, well, then I'm not going to go out with a friend, or I'm not going to go out to eat, or I'm going to not do, like today, if you would have been really anxious about something, you could have said, hey, I don't really feel like doing the live tonight. And I know a couple times,
which I did say.
I know, that's what I was going to say. A couple times you've said that, and then you're here, and then how do you feel?
Chill.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. So that's one where it's just, it's a thought. It was an emotion. It was very real. Right. Does it start to lessen at all though? Honestly, you can say no.
What?
Like when you have those feelings, maybe on the nights that we do this, and if you don't want to do it, does that just kind of come and go in your mind, or sometimes do you really sit with it?
I always want to do this, but sometimes I get really like anxious.
Yeah. Has that ever got close to you saying, hey, can we not do one tonight?
I have canceled one before because I was anxious, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and that's like the acceptance is you always can.
Yeah, but then I have had the nights where like we'll do it, and then I'll be like, oh, I'm really glad that like I did that and I didn't think that I could,
Yeah.
you know? And sometimes I come on here and I embarrass myself, and like that's
No.
fine too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like with what you're saying with change, sometimes we're just scared of feeling like different emotions, and just because you're not feeling something that's good or always like happy, it doesn't mean it's not good and like good, honestly, you know,
Yeah.
like because you're growing and you're changing and whatever.
Mackie, shout out Mac. She pinned a question for us. That means and go follow Mackie's account on TikTok.
Read the question. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you read it.
Lots of questions about narcissistic parents. Talk about that.
Tell me about your parents. See, that's why you had to read it.
What do you want me to do? What?
No, that's what you're supposed to say. Oh, wait, I can't. I don't know what that is. They weren't narcissistic. You sure didn't jump on that one, did you?
Just kidding.
Yeah. Are you though? Okay.
You're chill.
Okay. Well, here. Okay. So Kevin, what to do about narcissistic father who's never wrong, takes no accountability for anything. I feel like there's another joke in there as your dad, but we'll just kind of let that one slide. Yeah. So, okay, this is. Will you promise that you'll jump in and you'll interact and tell me if you think there's any of these things don't make sense or are wrong? Because this is where I was about to just go on a soapbox here and say, okay, so on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, I highly recommend you go find that one. And recently, I've done some on narcissistic family systems. And we've talked about those roles. Matter of fact, you've been putting those clips on TikTok. And so find those two where we talk about being the scapegoat, being the hero, being the mascot, being the lonely child. And I think that so many of those roles are really fascinating to understand what those look like, because they're just they're so predictable in a family system where you have a narcissistic parent. But here's where I want to go with. I'm going to jump in and do my five rules of interacting with a narcissistic fill in the blank parent, spouse, you name it. Because when he says, what do I do about that dad who's never wrong, takes no accountability for anything, the fact that you're aware of that is amazing to start off with, because that can be maddening when people just continually feel like, what is going on? Because I feel like I'm continually being told I'm wrong. And I did see my parent do that, but they don't take ownership. And we were talking earlier about me reaching out to you and saying, hey, my bad on reaching out to Hannah and saying I couldn't get a hold of Sid. That was me really wanting to make sure you see me take ownership of things, even if you don't feel like that was a big deal. Because I think that this is where we talk about that's on the parent to try to model that behavior. Because most of the time, if the parent's not modeling that behavior, if you were to say to me, you know, do you know how embarrassing that was or anything? Instead of me going, man, I'm so sorry. I could understand, you know, that must have been hard. Tell me more. Then I would say, well, if you would have answered your phone, then I wouldn't have had to do that. And then I'm going to make you feel bad about it. And I'm not going to take ownership for it. You know? So these 5 rules I talk about for interacting with narcissistic individuals. And then, so I would say here, Kevin, the first one I say is raise your emotional baseline, which is a self-care. Because one of the best things that you can do is I want to say, buckle up, because the more that you're aware of this, the more you're going to see it. And the more you're going to see it, the more you're still going to want to, and we'll talk about this in a minute, you're going to want to point that out to your dad. You're going to want to make sure you want them to understand, because we so desperately want to be heard and understood ourselves, that then when our own parent isn't validating us or isn't acknowledging us, I mean, that's hard. That hurts, you know, as a kid, it really does. So you raise your emotional baseline, self-care. And I'm not talking you have to go get a mani-pedi or, you know, that sort of thing. But it's just start to give yourself some credit. You know, this is where you have to start developing that self-love. And that can be just doing little things that matter to you, whether it can be anything from reading, meditating, watching the shows you like, you know, hanging out with your friends more, petting the dog, doing those sort of things. I don't know. What's your take on the self-care or raising your baseline?
I don't know. I like to go on walks and like connect with nature.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like self-care is selfish, or do you feel okay when you're doing it?
No, I think that life is selfish. You know, it's like you have to be a little selfish at some point, or else you can't be like, you can't give your 100 to anyone who you love or care about. You know what I mean?
For sure. That's a good way to put that.
Like, you have to be a little selfish. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
So that and I like that. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like it's just like doing what you feel like you personally want to do. Like it should have nothing to do with anyone else or even like the list you just put off, you know?
Yeah.
Like it
It's
should
whatever works
totally
for you.
just be a you thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that's important is because, and I'm not going to be all dramatic. I can't think of a good analogy, but you have to be in a good mental space, because the more that you are starting to recognize that the world around you is different maybe than you anticipated, especially your parents, because we grow up thinking that our parents are always going to, I mean, because they did provide our safety. They did provide our physical safety. They provided our temporal safety. They provided us food, some shelter. And so then we just assume, our brain wants to say that then I'm sure they will also provide emotional safety and support. But then as you start to go through life, you start to recognize these things like Kevin seeing where, but man, my dad's never taken ownership of anything. And when somebody isn't wrong, they're definitely, I would say what goes along with this, they're not curious about what your experience is. They're good at telling you what you should be thinking and feeling and doing, but it isn't about curiosity. Or if you express yourself to them, I would imagine most of the time they're just letting you know that, well, I don't understand that, or why would you want to do that? Or, well, here's the way I used to do it and it was probably better than you, or here's what you need to do different. None of that is building emotional safety at all. Yeah.
I feel like it can be hard to come to terms with, but like your parent can like provide you with, you know, clothes and food and all of that and talk to you every day. But like there can still be, you know, like if there's not like that emotional connection or that like that strive to like connect with your child emotionally, like you have to like give that to yourself or find that in, you know, like friends and family, or I guess not family in that case.
Oh, unless siblings or that sort of thing.
But yeah, I feel like it can like both can exist. Like they can give you the house over your head, but like not the emotion. And they can like, that can be the best that they could do for you with their tools at that time or whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve better.
That's
you know?
so good. And then and I think that's one of those things that when we talk about acceptance, that acceptance doesn't mean apathy, doesn't mean that you are, something is wrong with you. But a lot of times, and you'll see as I go through these 5 things, the acceptance means, oh, I do recognize this pattern. So then I can understand that it isn't a me thing, that this is just a them thing, the way that they show up. So we got that self-care, raise your emotional baseline. The second thing is, I always say, get your PhD in gaslighting. That really understand that it's, so you have opinions, you have thoughts, you know how things happen in your life. I mean, I know that we talk about the fallacy of memory, and memories are cute and adorable, and we all think that we remember things exactly, but then it turns out our memories can be really challenged. But there will be certain things.
No one remembers anything, right? Like
it's really interesting. Yeah.
Like no one knows what's actually going on at all.
but so if you said, hey, I thought you were gonna, I don't know, you were gonna take us on this vacation, or you were going to pay for this semester of college or whatever. And then you get to that moment. And here's what I think is interesting about that is that you wouldn't have even thought about going on the vacation had they not said that, or you would have already been reaching out to get a student loan if they wouldn't have said they'll pay for that semester. Because I get these a lot from people when I'm talking to them in therapy. But then all of a sudden they say, okay, hey, I took some time off for work, that vacation. And then the emotionally mature narcissistic parent says, oh yeah, I decided not to do it, and it's because a lot of times you got to look at the narcissist or the emotionally mature. They'll say what they say in that moment because it's what they feel like is the right thing to say in that moment. Oh, I'll give you all the money in the world, or I'll support you, or we'll go on a vacation, and then you go, oh my gosh, I finally feel seen and understood and loved and heard. And I go away. I'm like, we're going on a vacation, or I get to go to college, or and then meanwhile, they just got rid of that discomfort, or they felt like I'm a good parent, but then now they are on to the next thing. And then you now take that with you. And when it comes time to say, hey, about that thing that you had said, and then that's where the gaslighting can come in. I never said that. Or, okay, but you really thought I was serious? Or, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do that. But that's going to be a real pain on me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I had that with a guy recently, and I feel like he could say all the right things, like everything he said was perfect, but that should have been the red flag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
because he didn't want to have discomfort, or he didn't want to potentially be invalidated or make you feel bad or any of that.
And I feel like that was where I had to seriously, I had to almost make a list of what is this guy actually doing versus what is he saying he's going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's 2 completely different universes of things that were happening, you know, and that can be confusing, you know, when you're hearing everything that you want to hear. And I'm sure that's the same thing with like a parent, you know, and they're giving you love and like supporting you somewhat. But
wait, I have to do the puzzle.
Tony has to do his puzzle.
If I don't do this, it says the live will end in 1 minute. Okay, hang on. What if I couldn't do this?
Dang it, I lost my train of thought.
I know it's so good.
Do a puzzle.
Okay, whew, made it. Oh, that means we've been going an hour. Okay, man.
But yeah,
you were good.
I don't remember.
It was really good. Okay, the second tip. So the first one was raise your emotional baseline. Self-care is not selfish. The second one is get your PhD in gaslighting. There's a really cool podcast that I love, and it's these 3 emergency room physician doctors, and they gave me an official like doctorate in gaslighting. So I do have my PhD in gaslighting now.
Wow.
I know. Thank you very much. The third one, though, is it is the get out of unproductive conversations, because what the narcissist or the truly emotionally immature needs is, we often say this, another human being to interact with in order to know that they exist, to feel alive. So you're providing them with this attack surface. The longer that you're in there trying to make sense of the nonsense, the more that you feel crazy. And they're just feeling like, wow, you know, they're getting the charge of, oh, I know what to do with this. You're wrong. I'm right. Really? That's what you thought? I didn't say that. And so it almost gives them, they call that narcissistic supply. And meanwhile, you're losing your whole sense of self and starting to question yourself, and your cortisol spiking. And that's where we start getting into that world of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because now your fight or flight response is saying, okay, this is where we always go. So we need all the blood flow of the brain to go in these certain areas. We don't need our short-term memory right now. We don't need our prefrontal cortex, our logical part.
And that's so telling about their character too, right? Because while you're like freaking out and thinking that you're in the wrong and everything you're doing is wrong, they're literally watching that and writing down notes on how to keep that up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the belief is like, that's just they operate from a place called the false self. So that just is that is just their interaction in the moment.
Unintentional.
It's just subconscious. It's
because they can't like look in on themselves.
Yep. Yeah. Because the false self is whoever I need to be in that moment. So then there isn't introspection. There isn't trying to sit with that discomfort. It's, oh, I can get rid of discomfort like nobody's business.
Do they even know who they are at all then?
I mean, they think they do. They're awesome and wonderful, except for when you try to tell them they're not, and then you're bad, and then nobody understands them except for then how awesome they are at that. And
yeah, it almost seems like they're a different like version of themselves for like whoever they need, whoever they're around, like for whatever they need to be.
Yeah, that's why we, I deal with people that are coming out of relationships with the narcissist, and then that discard happens, after. So when you no longer provide them with the narcissistic supply, then you're gone, you're cut off. And so now they go to the next person, and there's so many examples where I see where I can think of a woman who all that she talked about was that the person that she was with was just so grateful that this woman had a very financially successful job. And so then when they broke up, then the narcissist in her life went for somebody that had never made money or had a job. So then it was like, but wait, that's all he ever talked about was that's the most important thing. But it was like, well, that was the most important thing for him in that moment because you made a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that discard. So it's often like, but he said he doesn't like this person, or he says he doesn't like brunettes, or he says he doesn't like, and it's like, oh yeah, he didn't until he did. That's the false self. Yeah.
And so are they changing themselves because they need like that validation from you?
Yeah. Well, that's their, it, I mean, that's they do, but they're just taking the one-up position on, okay, now who am I interacting with, and how do I now love bomb you until you think that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Oh my gosh, I love bombing. That's the problem. It's great. It's great to be love bombed, but it's actually terrible.
I did have
it always ends bad.
There's a woman that I was working with for a while, and she talked about that. She was running in a particular kind of circle where the love bombers in her life would literally like say, let's go jump in my jet and let's go have lunch in Vegas or whatever. And she said, okay, now that I'm aware of it, can I at least still go do those things? But I promise I won't stay involved with the person. It's like, that's tough.
Yeah. Right? Well, I do actually want to take that back right away, because I feel like I've found that like the idea of love bombing is great. Okay. Right. The idea that someone just loves you instantly and everything. Blah, blah, blah. But what I found recently, because I swear every man chooses to love bomb me for some reason.
Okay.
I found that like that it's not real at all.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
and that was like kind of like dang it. Like that was a dang it feeling for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like if they're love bombing you, it's because they want you to love them back. It's
Totally.
not because they
Yeah.
love you.
No.
A lot of times they don't even know how to show it.
Well, they don't. That is what they feel is love, is you telling them they're amazing. Oh, that must be love.
Yeah. And
So there isn't a self-love involved there.
It's like they're saying they love you, but they're really just talking about how much they love themselves over and over again. You know, because it's like you don't even know me, especially if it's early into the relationship. Like you don't even know enough to be saying those kind of things. So,
and I think what's really difficult about that one is when somebody feels like this person is into them or does care about them, then the last thing they want to do, I call it introducing positive tension. So if the person just says, man, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of if they say, if you mentioned that you like romance novels, and then they're like, man, you know what's crazy? I do too. Then the first thing the person wants to say is just, oh my gosh, we love all the same things. Have you read this one? You know, well, if he's like, yeah, tell me what your favorite part was. You're falling into that because it feels so good to be loved. But intentional tension is, okay, well, tell me your top 5 favorite romance novels. Because at that point, then you're going to see the guy, if that's not who he is, then he's going to say, oh, it's hard to pick. And you're like, we'll do. Like literally. I can name out 15 of them. So what are your top 5? Give me your top 3. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But who wants to do that though?
Ask questions first. Like be aware of if they're just responding after you every time. You know what I mean? Because I think I've kind of seen that with guys before.
Well, I was gonna say when you said earlier when you were saying, man, I feel like a lot of people are good at love bombing me. It kind of go back to a little bit earlier where we talked about your kindness or that highly sensitive person piece. That this is where there's that human magnet syndrome again. You got pathologically kind person, an emotionally immature narcissistic person often form this human magnet because the nice person isn't going to be the one that says, well, tell me your top 3 favorite romantic novels, because they're like, I don't want to make him feel bad. And so then when you have the way this can play out in some pretty bad ways is, let's say that this person is pushing boundaries with things like intimacy. And this person says, I don't want them to feel like I'm saying that they're mean or bad, or so then this person will let them push boundaries. And then eventually, they find themselves in situations that they really don't want to be. And it's because they didn't want to tell this person, tell me your top 3 romance novels, so then it just kind of progresses, which I guess we'll talk about that in a second. Your Langham 246, can you expand on number 2? So the gaslighting concept is, it's when somebody really undermines your perception of reality. And so it's when you're second guessing your own memories, different events, your own perceptions. And so a lot of times when you come out of a conversation with somebody that's been gaslighting you, you really are questioning your own sense of reality. And it's especially bad when it's things that you're very confident about. Because a lot of people often say things like, they'll say, I got to the point where I was questioning if I even am a good person, and that breaks my heart, because now I look at that, that's a lot of a wasted emotional calories and energy worrying about, am I a good person or not? Because this person just told me I'm not.
Yeah. I remember thinking like,
Can I turn the air on?
Yeah.
Okay, will you talk to the...
I remember thinking like, am I the narcissist?
That's what people always say.
And did I like because you talk about like confabulation or whatever, like your memory, you can't trust it at all. And I always just think that like, what if I'm just creating a false reality, and I'm the crazy person.
Exactly.
And that's just like such a vulnerable like position to be in, when you're questioning yourself like that.
For sure. And what I like is when we get to that point of everything's an opportunity to self-confront and grow for you, and we talk about being differentiated, where everything is a you thing, and I'm saying that in a good way, is then if somebody is saying that is something about you, instead of then questioning that from a place of, am I crazy, from a differentiated standpoint, is there any truth in that? And if I know there isn't, then okay, well, thanks for telling me that. I'm good. I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to break you down. I mean, that's kind of next level stuff. But because I know we're kind of talking about right now, if somebody's raised with a narcissistic parent, that's where this even started. And we're in this point of where if you're in a relationship with somebody emotionally immature, narcissistic. So let me get to we did the third one, then get out of unproductive conversations. The fourth one is where it really starts to get difficult. And this is that set healthy boundaries and know that the boundary is going to get challenged, that the boundary, they're going to run through your boundary. And this is where we talked before about boundary versus ultimatum, because often, let's say that you've raised your baseline, you're feeling pretty good. You got your PhD in gaslighting, so you know that, okay, I'm not crazy. And then that's why number 3, get out of unproductive conversations, is so important, because if I recognize I'm starting to get gaslit, then I need to get out of that conversation, because the more I'm in it, the more they're going to try and make me feel crazy. So then the 4th concept is that the boundary, and we often think we're setting a boundary when we say an ultimatum. So we'll say things like, hey, you need to not, you can't say that. You can't call me those names. No, I just gave him an ultimatum. And I didn't set a boundary. I just said, you can't do this. And what's a narcissist going to do then?
Obstacle course.
Yeah. It's like, oh, really? I can't? Well, that sounds crazy. You know, name called thing. And so then a boundary, though, is if you say that, then I will leave. The if you, then I is the boundary. So that 4th one is then set healthy boundaries, but know that the narcissist is going to push your boundary. A boundary is a challenge, because at that point they're saying, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do. And you just handed them buttons that they know it's important. And I did an episode on waking up to narcissism last week with a letter from a listener. Would you? They sent it by carrier pigeon. And I got it in the pigeon. I had the falconer thing on, and it landed, and I opened it up, the little note, and I sliced the
scroll.
And it was like, "Dear Tony." No, it was electronic mail, aka email. Where were we? Oh, but the person was talking about what are they talking about, Sid?
The narcissistic.
Yeah, they were. Oh my gosh, it just keeps coming and going, You start talking and I'll remember, because that's what I always do for you.
Lucky for you, I have no idea what we were talking about.
It was so good though. Boundary.
We could read some things.
It was boundary in the email. Okay, she's blah, blah, blah. Holy cow.
What did they say? I can say whatever I want.
Okay. This is this is good. This is good. Oh, I remember. Thank you. Who said that? Thank you.
It's gone.
Okay, that was good. So then what happens is, then if you are being open and vulnerable to the emotionally immature narcissistic person, you're handing them buttons to push later. So in this this carrier pigeon letter that was developed, and I'm worried I'm going to forget what I was going to say again just because I said that. But she said that she had put out there, you can't keep calling me that in front of the kids, because the one thing that's important to me is being a mom, because her mom wasn't a very nice mom. So then what did he just do? He just learned, oh, so if I call you names and tell you that you're a bad mom, then I have more control, which is what he would do over and over again. Whenever he would get really mad, then he would say, okay, well, I'm going to go tell the kids that the mom wants a divorce. Apparently she wants to break up the family, because now he knows that really will hurt her. So it's she handed him her heart in essence, and then he just took it and stomped all over it.
Yeah, they're taking like the most like vulnerable parts of you and using that as a way to hurt you. Like that's insane, and that's supposed to be the person that loves you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
TJ. Oh no.
Okay, let me get to the 5th one. Do you want? Then we'll hit that.
Someone asked if I went to the DMV.
Oh, you might have to go lay down on the therapy couch there. I'll get in my chair and we'll do it for real. So the last thing after the boundaries is this, and this one's big, and this is where I go back to the initial story or the initial question was about like a narcissistic dad. Even is Jay breaks my heart, says you're telling my story. But the 5th thing is that you will never be able to give that person, whether it's your dad, your spouse, your boss, you'll never give them the aha moment or the epiphany. And the more that you recognize that when you're feeling crazy and you don't know these rules that I've come up with, then you find yourself continually trying to approach the narcissist in a way that they will understand. But now, as you understand when we go through these, but what you're doing is you're handing them buttons to push. You're feeling more and more crazy. You're getting gaslit. You're providing them basically with more attack surface and narcissistic supply. You're losing your short-term memory. You're wasting a tremendous amount of time and emotional calories on trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Why don't they understand, versus an acceptance of I'm good and they don't understand.
How does somebody process going from like thinking this person is the love of their life to having to understand that this person like is controlling them and manipulating them? And like, how do you like come to that acceptance?
So this is a great question. So I go back to the name of my podcast is Waking Up to Narcissism. And I was really intentional about that, because it was about waking up to my own narcissistic traits, tendencies, or emotional immaturity, or somebody waking up to the emotional immaturity or narcissistic traits or tendencies in their relationship. And so that waking up process, it's a lengthy one. And I'll tell you, I had this is funny because now I worry about my own confabulated stories, but at one point, I have a book published right now about addiction. I had presented 2 other proposals to another publisher that I didn't go with initially. And one of them was about this concept of this book, a book about this. And so I said, okay, there's those 5 things. And so I said, I want to start the book off by saying, here's 5 rules, and now here's how you work with them. And they said, oh man, wouldn't it be better though if you then lay out the 5 rules and at the end say, now by the time you get good at those 5 things, you'll realize this relationship is unhealthy, And I said, oh, I can't do that because I feel like we just duped somebody. So I would start out the book by saying, and this is where I'm going with this, is that when somebody does find out that this person that they really care about, that they thought had just nothing but their best interest in mind, that when they found out that that person is not that person that they think they are, and they start looking on the internet and then they find this concept of narcissism, it's almost inevitable that it says, go no contact right now. You're just run, trust me and run. But then as a real therapist that's working with this population for so long, guess what percentage of people can just cut bait and run right away?
Not me.
Yeah, 0. I mean, 0, because the first thought is they're saying, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one, back to like you were saying, and the first question I would get is, maybe I'm the narcissist, says the person that's listening to all the podcasts, reading the books and trying to figure out the relationship. And that's why I always say, if you're asking yourself, if you are the narcissist, you're not. Right out of the gate, you're not, because you care too much to then you're going and trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong? Because that's where I think it must be me. I must be narcissistic, that this relationship isn't working. And so, and so then when somebody, so I feel like this whole book project, the Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, these 5 rules of interacting with the narcissist, we're all based off of this place of where you're going to go through these things, and it's going to take quite a bit of time to then get to the point where then you recognize either, we both didn't know what we didn't know. We don't have the tools to communicate. I've changed the dynamic in the relationship, and now it is changing the way that that person shows up. Or the more that I find myself and operate from this sense of self and confidence, the worse and more immature this person gets. And then at that point, now at some point, your baseline is so high that now you can now make that decision that if this is a unhealthy or not a viable relationship, it's easier to exit. It's not easy, but you have the tools you need to.
I'd imagine it would be so hard. And like, I would probably feel like you're like literally grieving someone, but I feel like you are, especially if you're coming to the understanding that they're narcissistic, you're grieving like the person that you thought they were, not the person that they actually are. And that's probably something that can kind of help you get through it.
It really is.
But
yeah.
It's like that feeling of like thinking someone is so good and just like it was all a lie. Like that is such a terrible feeling. It's like you feel like you've been like lied to and like betrayed.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's even a thing called NAG, narcissist awareness guilt. And that is, it's like almost those stages of grief and loss where, you've got the dab to denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And then you've got this grieving the loss of the relationship that you always thought you would have, because the person hasn't, passed on per se. But then this is where somebody felt like, but wait, at some point they're going to get it. And then I'm going to feel better. And then we're going to ride off into the sunset. And so when people have been in these relationships for 20, 30, 40 years, and then they're coming up to that place where they recognize, oh man, it has actually gotten worse, and I feel worse about myself, then that's where they would have that narcissist awareness grief. Yeah. And it can be really, that can be a lot. But then when the person does all this work, this self-care work, and they find themselves in this better place, I think it can take years. But then, I've got this private women's Facebook group for women coming out of narcissistic relationships, and it's 700-800 people there. And a lot of them have been out of one of these relationships for years. And it's, they will weigh in often and just say how emotionally freeing they feel, how, they do now. And it kind of goes back to, now I get why now let's say that one of those people would write, let's say they were going to write an article about narcissism. They would probably then say, trust me, when you find out, go, but it's like, but everybody has to go through that journey. on their own to get, and then if you look at it as a way that you're eventually going to learn new skills and tools and grow, then it becomes part of that back to change.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be okay.
I feel like the healing process from that is especially that is like it's very up and down, and like a lot of times you won't realize, and that's also like I feel like it's important to say if you get out of a narcissistic relationship and you don't feel like you're all changed and it made you better and it just sucks, that's so normal and valid too. Like you shouldn't feel like you have to be a better person because you went through something. So, like it shouldn't, I don't know if I worded that exactly how I wanted to.
I think I know what you're saying.
But
is it just that like it does stink that you have to go through this intense negative experience to try to get to this other end and then to feel better?
Yeah, but if you don't, and sometimes you won't feel better though, and that's okay too. It's like if you get out of like a terrible narcissistic relationship, it's normal for you to not feel like a fully transformed magical new butterfly, like there's a lot of like healing that has to go into that, and like especially after all the like manipulation stuff.
Right. Yes. And I like MAMK says, you're very right. I've experienced this with a so-called friend. Your friend can also be narcissistic. And absolutely. I mean, they'll say once you're aware of this is why people then almost go through this place where everybody appears to be narcissistic. I think that's why this is so out there in the I say zeitgeist, but it's in the what we're talking about. And it's because when and that's why I think I wanted to frame it as more around emotional immaturity, because when you look at it that way and you accept the fact that we're all emotionally immature until we're not, till we're willing to sit with some discomfort, self-confront, go to therapy, take ownership and
and then we all are until we're not, and then we still are. Like even when,
because we still don't know what we don't know.
We're always going to be a little emotionally immature. I feel like.
Oh yeah.
And I think accepting that makes you like kind of a stronger person.
It absolutely, because then then when something new comes up, now you have these tools to be able to sit with that discomfort, do a little self-confrontation, and go, oh, why did that sting? And it's because I really don't follow through a lot on certain things that I say I will, and I can always get better. No, like I'm definitely a hypocrite. Like I'll say all this stuff and then I'll like just be an idiot on accident. You know what I mean? I feel like that's totally all the time, right?
That's just like the point of life though. Like if we were all like super smart, all-knowing beings, then like none of this would be like this, you know?
For sure. No, I like that. We're going to get back into the narcissist stuff, but I see 101 Music. Can you guys have a separate live for ghost stories? I would love to. When we moved to our new place, it said, as my daughter, me as the therapist, and Mackie moderating got a podcast as well. And we'd love to get your mom to come on some podcasts as well. But we want to do a lot more with the lives at different times of the day. I would love to do one just about paranormal, ghost stories, that sort of thing. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Amanda says, recognizing makes me feel crazy. Honestly, sometimes I'd rather believe their gaslit versions of events. And Amanda, I just want you to thank you.
Yeah,
because that's something people struggle with talking about. And I can think of one of my favorite, one of my favorite clients. We were doing couples therapy, and the couple has gotten so much better. There was a lot of immaturity early on. And she even said, I loved it. She even said, because she was basically looking to the guy to then help her feel more safe about some financial things that were going on. And he was like, man, I wish I could, but yeah, this is a difficult time, but we're going to figure it out. And she said, this is where I wish he was a narcissist again. Because in that one, he's like, oh, we're fine. Like don't even worry about it. And she's like, in those moments, it was like, okay, cool. So I wonder if that's a little bit of what she was talking about. Yeah. Do you have thoughts around that though?
Oh yeah. No, I totally understand what she's saying, because I like, especially if you really, really love the person, like coming to the realization that they're not the person that you thought you loved, that's like earth shattering.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're watching your entire
future,
that you thought was going to happen. And you watch it just like disappear. And it's like uncomfortable too. It's like this person that like this character that you created is not what you thought.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe
so
that's
like
almost,
okay, that's even better. So it's like, wait, I want him to be this guy that's going to do everything amazing and wonderful and be so successful and take care of me. And we're going to have the big house
but yeah, it's like, and that's where I feel like we said before, it's like, it does kind of feel like you're grieving someone, but you're grieving what you thought they were, not who they are. And it's also, I think a good way to look at it is you are realizing that you deserve more and you're not getting what you deserve.
Yeah.
And that's also a great thing.
Yeah.
But like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying when you think that you have like a Prince Charming and then it's like, oh, that was all a lie.
Well, it goes back to like, it's okay to be, I want to say it's okay to be just kind of, I want to say just normal and doing and trying to figure life out. But the narcissist is so special. They're so unique. That's, we've got that one TikTok about that. I've had more than one time where a client has told me that, their spouse would come in for couples therapy. And then they quickly got well, what does he know? Talking about me. I mean, yeah, what has he done this 20 years, seen 1,500 couples? What does he know? Mm-hmm. I know more than that guy does about our marriage. Right? Or that's where the narcissist will often say, oh, matter of fact, what would be interesting
is anyone know?
What does anybody know? But I got, I'm doing an episode on Waking Up to Narcissism this week on this concept called death by 1,000 cuts. And I've got 6 other episodes based off of all the stories that people write in and talk about. And somebody told me this one, and I think this is exactly it. This one will go on the episode, but it's somebody saying every time we would have a big fight, then the guy would drive himself to the ER in the early hours and she would be asleep. And she would say, I get a text when he got there saying how he drove himself because he didn't want to bother me while I was sleeping because he's very valiant, And then she said he would only feed me tidbits of information when I asked what was wrong. Things like the doctor doesn't know how or doesn't know what's going on. So they're sending me for more x-rays, blood work, and maybe they'll still admit me. He would keep me hanging and I would be on pins and needles, not knowing if it was serious. And then she said, after a few hours, I'd get another text asking me to pick him up because they were kicking him out of the hospital because according to him, the doctors just didn't even really know what they were doing. So she said I would pick him up. And most of the times he would feel better within a few hours and asked me to drive him back to the hospital so he could get his car. She said he knew, and this woman, she said he knew I had back problems. It was uncomfortable for me to drive for long periods of time. The hospital was 40 minutes away one way. So 4 trips back and forth would end up hurting her. And she said these ER visits were happening once a month for several months in a row. And then they're not as often. But I just thought that was a good example of where, she's saying, here's this guy. He probably just went to like a Denny's and had a stack of pancakes or something. He's texting. They don't even know yet, but it's like, you don't just go to the ER and then the doctors are saying, well, we've run the test and we don't know. So we're sending you home.
We're a little confused. So see you later.
Yeah, exactly. So that one's really funny. Oh, Sonia, as an ER nurse, I see this behavior a lot after relationship fights. That's so fascinating. Okay. Sonia, can I quote that on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast tomorrow? Because I can say, here, I can be a narcissist and I can say, I had this lengthy conversation with this ER nurse last night about this. That's what I could do to confabulate.
Close personal friend.
Close personal friend. Yeah, exactly. But Sonia, thanks for that. Let's see. Amanda, we got that one. Tiffany, 100,000%. Jen, I appreciate this one. My ex started calling me a covert narcissist after they had an emotional affair. They gaslight me. Absolutely, they do. Because, I was going to talk about this earlier. If you look at it in terms of they are trying to find the right button to press to get you to react. Because if you don't react, if it's like, well, you're a covert narcissist because, whatever. And if you're saying, oh, well, tell me more about that, then it's not going to be you're right.
Okay. Is that the same thing with love bombing where they're just saying whatever they need to say to help you like take a step closer to them?
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah.
That kind of clicked for me. I feel like.
Yeah. Because if you don't react to it, then they're going to amp it up. And if you don't react in the negative way, then they're going to push a bigger button. So if you don't care, and that's where I often say that part of the work in trying to figure yourself out in the relationship is okay, I know that I know I'm a good dad. I know I work hard to provide. I know, all these sort of things. So then if the spouse is saying stuff like, you know what, you're a horrible dad too. If you're like, wow, that one didn't even rattle me. It's like, oh, okay, well, tell me more about that. And then they say, and you're a horrible provider, and then it's like, okay, I'm good. But then if they all of a sudden say, I don't know, some new button and you can't swim, but if all I ever cared about was my swimming, which is really silly because I can't really swim very well. Then all of a sudden, if I react, then they're like, okay, I found the button to push. Now he's going to react. Now I get to say, oh my gosh, I don't feel very safe right now, or you're being crazy, but then all that person can do is go, man, why did that one get me? There's the work I need to do. So yeah. Okay. Should we read do this one real quick. Kyle, I like this one. How can you tell love bombing from hyperfixation?
Oh, what? I don't know. I
think you posted it earlier.
I need to like
falling hard and falling fast.
I don't know. I don't know this stuff well. Because like I told, I kind of like in my perfect world, I would just be love bombed and it would be real.
Yeah.
But I don't think that exists. So
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I've got a very, very scientific theory about this called the crapshoot theory. That's like insert laughter because it's not very scientific. Ha.
ha.
But this is where sometimes people will get out of I've got a client right now that got out of a horrific relationship for 20 something years, has kids and all this stuff. And then she dated a guy and he's awesome. And she even came to couples therapy because she wanted to say, what am I missing? And then I'm getting to say, you guys are both pretty cool. And she's starting to freak herself out of, okay, I've got to be missing something. So, and I'm not, but here's what I should erase that from the video, because that's the one where somebody's like, if they're being gaslit and it is this narcissistic person, like, okay, see, so this guy is probably part of the crapshoot theory. He probably is awesome and he means all these things, So I think that's my way of saying that theoretically you could bump into somebody that's done their own work. They've been to therapy. They've self-confronted. They're the one that got out of an unhealthy relationship. Now they realize that they've done their work and now they're showing up a little bit more emotionally mature. And that's why I say then the goal is to introduce that positive tension. So then it is to then, if they say they like, I don't know, I really like sports too, to be able to have the courage to say, well, what sports do you like? Tell me who your favorite teams are.
Wait,
like?
I got confused. So what is your answer? Is there a difference between hyperfixation?
I think I went on a tangent there. But so the hyperfixation, I was off on a whole different thing there. Where I was going with that was that when you were saying I would just like for it to be easy and that it's real, I was kind of going down this path of, well, theoretically, it could be a healthy person that comes right out of it. But if they all of a sudden like all the same things you do, there's a chance that they like all the same things you do.
Oh, yeah.
But then what your goal or challenge would be to have the courage to then ask questions about those things.
Yeah. And I also think that what I need to come to terms with to myself is like, if they say they love you so early, like they're disrespecting you because they're not giving you time to, they're not respecting you with the time to get to know you.
Yeah.
Like, so I that like was a while for me to realize. I think I kind of just realized it right now while we're sitting here. But it's like, that's not, like, I do feel like even if you have so much in common with someone right off the bat, you don't love them, like it's like you still spend
like a lot of the
time
same
with
things.
them and you talk and like things develop, it's like,
this is where I talk about those we haven't talked about this in a while, these levels of intimacy. And that's the one where we often just find somebody attractive. That's why I say like, oh, they're hot. And then, but underneath this, there's those ladder levels of intimacy. On the bottom is verbal intimacy, that we can just talk. We talk about everything and we talk for hours. We don't get tired, because even underneath this verbal intimacy is this psychological intimacy of trust and honesty and loyalty and commitment. But we don't know those things yet. But we start finding those out by talking about things, verbal intimacy. And then we feel connected there. Then we bump up. The next rung of this ladder is emotional intimacy. So when we feel like there's verbal intimacy and there's some of this honesty, some sounds like a little loyalty, a little trust, a little commitment, then we'll open up emotionally. And now we'll start to really share our feelings and emotions. And above that is cognitive and intellectual intimacy, which this is one where I'll say somebody can have their GED and somebody can have their PhD, but they don't care. They're connected. They're not thinking that one's better than the other, or because they have that verbal and emotional intimacy. Then above cognitive and intellectual is spiritual intimacy. They can have completely different belief systems. And then physical intimacy is actually the byproduct of those. But we often find somebody physically attractive, and now we go down here and try to talk to him, and it doesn't go well.
Oh,
but we're like, but he's hot, right?
You said that the physical is a byproduct of
in
all
a perfect
of these
world.
things?
Yeah, that's where, like, if you can stay connected on all these levels, then you have this physical intimacy. Doesn't just mean intimacy and for the sake of TikTok.
It's not some shallow thing. It's literally this deep. It's this thing, big old emotions.
Like it's almost like that would be at the tip of the iceberg. And that's where it's even. So you got verbal, emotional, cognitive, intellectual, spiritual, and then physical is the byproduct. And then again, what's building underneath even the verbal level is this honesty, trust, loyalty, commitment, because those things are building a foundation as you learn verbal, emotional, cognitive, intellectual. But when we go in there and we say they're hot, and then we open up emotionally, and they kind of nothing us. There's like, okay, whatever. Then we're like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. So we go right back to, but man, they're cute, or people are being intimate. Again, for our TikTok audience, can't say the word. then that's where that becomes the foundation of the relationship. And it's almost like it flips it under, and now the physical is the basis,
Okay.
And then and that's the concept that I'll tell you as a marriage therapist, that people won't stay on the same place physically. There'll be high desire, low desire. There'll be, different times and seasons, where somebody feels more connected physically than another person. So that's why
That's a thing
Yeah.
in like all relationships.
Yeah. There's a high desire, low desire partner. We've never really talked about that, huh?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And then some, so we'll save that one for that one we can spend some time on. It's really fascinating because in that world, it's with physical intimacy, it can really be, it has so many other emotions that go with it. But then even high desire, low desire is subjective, because I can have somebody that, let's say that somebody's used to being intimate, we'll say 3 days a week, and then somebody else is 1 day a week. And then
so to have a lower,
then the 1 day a week is the low desire.
drive.
Yeah. The lower desire partner in that scenario is one. But then if they now get out of that relationship and they're in a relationship where they want to be intimate once a week and this person wants to twice a month, now all of a sudden they become the high desire partner. So it's pretty fascinating, And then it's just really, but we'll talk about that at a different time. That one's really fun to talk about.
Okay, so can the high and low desire, can it fluctuate?
Yeah,
like
in a healthy relationship, it can. But
should it?
Well, see, that's why I'm really not trying to like say, this is like for the big kids table, Sid. I'm not like saying that. But there's so much good stuff here. There's a marriage therapist named David Schnarch. There's Esther Perel has this new book out called Mating in Captivity. And it's really about like when you feel very connected with somebody, when you were talking about being intimate, you really are opening up and offering this person like your soul. You're being very vulnerable and committed. So there's a version that's just the expression of intense emotion. Again, trying to just say this so we won't get kicked off of TikTok. And then there's a version where you feel so safe in a relationship that you're basically like exploring your own relationship with intimacy. Just like in that world of differentiation, you need another human to interact with in a perfect world to explore your own feelings around intimacy, but you have to feel safe with that person in order to do it. So that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Is narcissism a coping mechanism that becomes your personality? Bike riding in 93. That's a great way to put it, because narcissism is considered to be a childhood coping mechanism that then leaves you feeling a lack of empathy and needing existing through external validation. So it's a coping mechanism from childhood. Like gaslighting is a childhood defense mechanism, because when you're little and you never saw anybody take ownership or admit anything, then you do that because you don't want to get in trouble. So you start gaslighting from a young age. It's like you never saw your parents do it, and if you got in trouble, you got in a lot of trouble.
And at that point, it's not like malicious, right? Like that's just like what you do to get to the next step.
Yeah.
Like if that's like how you saw it as a child.
Yeah, it's like how you get out of uncomfortable situations, right? Okay, do we do the Reddit and then we'll call it a night? It'll be 2 hours.
Let's go.
Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. Sign up, subscribe, and then we'll be your best friends, right? Answer your questions. We'll send you one-on-one videos, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. I, 23 female, have constant anxiety about my relationship with my boyfriend, 23 male. I need advice about interpreting my feelings. Hi, I, 23 female, have been in a relationship with my boyfriend, 23 male, for 4 years. We met at the beginning.
For math, 19. So they were. Do you consider that old to get in a relationship, or still young? 19.
Oh, I mean, no, it's not. I mean, if you're like, I don't know. I don't want to speak on this.
Well, I was just curious because I think, I mean, I now look at that as, people should have to have a license to get married. It should be 30. They should, all that stuff.
Yeah,
now,
maybe to get married, it seems young, but not to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know. It works differently for everyone. But personally, I'm not dating till I'm like 45.
Okay. Okay.
I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years. We met at the beginning of college and have dated since. We both graduated last year and moved across the country after he got a job. I have been diagnosed with anxiety, GAD, and OCD.
A generalized anxiety disorder. So it's kind of a big old bucket of anxiety.
And I have had anxiety and doubt issues surrounding my relationship for pretty much the whole time. For example, I have anxiety and intrusive thoughts regarding whether I actually like him. I mention these because anxiety and OCD make it really hard to distinguish what is real or not. I also am going to note that he is my first long-term partner. I wanted to mention this because a lot of the anxiety surrounding, well, my anxiety is the fact that I haven't experienced this before because I haven't been in a relationship prior to him. Since I moved last year, I've had so much trouble with anxiety and depression. I was good at first, then started working, and since then I've been in a rough patch mentally. Even with making new friends, starting hobbies, and getting on new medications, I haven't improved. I've noticed that with the anxiety, I felt myself be turned off of my relationship. I don't feel up to any intimate activity.
Well done.
I don't really feel touchy. I get anxiety around him, and I think about wanting to leave. He's an amazing person, and I get anxious and upset thinking about these feelings/thoughts and potentially derailing a 4-year long relationship. But at this point, I've been struggling for months and just don't feel like I'm capable of doing this relationship anymore. But at the same time, how do I know it's not intrusive thinking or anxiety trying to get at me? We got together right before the pandemic and have accomplished so much together, and we both fit together very well, liking the same things, but different enough to be interesting.
I like that you added that.
But at the same time, we've always struggled intimately, thanks to vaginismus and pregnancy-related anxiety and OCD. I get intrusive thoughts about my attraction to him, and I get anxious about the future. I would appreciate any and all advice, and I'll answer questions as well. OCD and anxiety make it really difficult to seek out assistance, as I always feel like I sound crazy. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to go? What are your initial thoughts? There's a lot there.
I don't know. You go.
So,
first.
I mean, one of the first things I think, just like some of the, and first of all, Betsy, how are you doing? And she's like, since she put a star over your head, it was really
That's
nice.
mean.
Yeah, I know, right? So I always think it's not always. I think it's good to just throw out a couple of definitions or foundational concepts, and one is about anxiety versus OCD, and then anxiety again is this worry and fear about things that will or could possibly happen, like losing a job or finances, or what if this relationship doesn't work out. A lot of stressors. So I think a lot of times anxiety is this worry or fear of the future and this desire for certainty. And I think she has so much of that. I want to know that this is going to work. I need to know that I'll have this attraction. I want to know right now. That causes her anxiety.
Mhm.
And then OCD is when you recognize a lot of times that your fears aren't necessarily based on a true threat, but then it causes that obsession that then you need to do some sort of compulsion to get rid of. So it does sound like she's got a lot of anxiety because this fear of the future and wanting certainty about things. So I'm just I think that's interesting. And then I think we can say that, like, can we say that one?
Yeah.
The vaginismus, if I say it maybe if I say it in a cough, vaginismus. No. That one's wild. I think when we were reading this before we went live, I was telling you, I've had a fair amount of experience with people that have suffered with this. And it's really, and I just brought up off of a good old WebMD. Doctors don't know exactly why it happens. It's usually linked to anxiety or fear of having intimate relations with somebody, but it's never clear what comes first, the vaginismus or the anxiety. And so you'll find that it really is a tightening of the area involved with intimacy.
Your mom.
Because so much of it is this fear, and it can be almost like crippling fear because of the fear of being intimate. But then I've seen it as a therapist come on during within a relationship. So where maybe somebody didn't have it, and then they do over time, which it sounds a little bit maybe like she has had some of that. Or you'll have, if people have had some trauma, a lot of times traumatic childhood with abuse in that realm, then this can be a carryover from that. And so in that scenario, then it's like the whole body keeps the score by, where her own body is saying, we can't do this. And so then I think one of the tricky things is always trying to assess whether or not this is just her own body saying, he's nice, we've been together 4 years, almost like I've learned as much as I can. And so I've learned that I want more connection with somebody, that I don't want to just be roommates together. I want excitement. I want curiosity. I want adventure.
How does she separate that? No, if she knows, okay, I have intrusive thoughts. Yes, I have raging anxiety. How can she separate those two feelings then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. It's
like, how can she know it's for sure?
So, well, she kind of can't, because like that for sure is the certainty. And then if she's trying to separate those thoughts, she's probably worried so much about what does each one mean, or and so really this goes back to that. If I was working with her, it's an acceptance of, first of all, like, hey, this is the first time you're ever you in this situation 4 years into the relationship and feeling the way you're doing. So check that out. Nothing wrong with you. Don't try to say don't feel that way. And, you can't just change your thoughts magically. So it's an acceptance for a while of just like, okay, so this is how I'm feeling. Because when you accept that that's how you're feeling, now she can interact with him and she can recognize, maybe journal, talk with a therapist of, okay, I'm noticing more that when we talk about the future, I feel anxious because I don't necessarily feel this connection. Or when we're talking about things that are really important, I actually feel okay right now, or maybe when we're talking about our favorite movies, because she said we have a lot of things that are in common. So when we're talking about those, I do feel pretty calm, but I also, then if he then feels calm and he wants to, go out intimate, then all of a sudden, then I get really anxious. So almost, what am I learning here? I'm learning that I really do like this connection I have with him, but maybe I don't find it like a physical connection, or so she has to accept that that's how she's feeling, so that she can be more curious about when is she feeling that way, and maybe what those things mean. But what do you think though?
I don't know. I just feel like it's tricky because if it is like a mental thing, like it meant, I don't. What do you say? Is it bad to say illness or mental disorder?
No, or so it's like a mental health challenge.
Mental health challenge. Yeah. If it is that, then wouldn't that mean that sometimes it will come up and it doesn't have a real meaning or reason
for sure,
and that's why it's there?
Absolutely. And I love that you're saying that, because that can be a lot of different things at play. But when somebody is so anxious and worried about, is it this, so then I don't want to go out and do this, or I don't want to do this anymore, then we're letting that anxiety or even that mental health issue almost keep us from interacting with life. And that's when people start to isolate and shut down. And that's when people start to then turn, more inward. And that's where we start to go to the what's wrong with me. And maybe I don't even deserve to be in a relationship. And. So it really is a place of just starting to be aware more of how you're thinking and feeling. Maybe this is where somebody does need to go get on medication, like we talked about, to maybe raise their emotional baseline.
They tried medication.
Oh, what did it say about it?
They tried medication and it didn't work. I can read that part again.
Okay, yeah, do.
Even with making new friends, starting hobbies, and getting on new medications, I have improved. So
I have or haven't?
Have not. So maybe is that you saying that maybe it is like something where you should listen to your body, and maybe your body is telling you that it's not good because it's not good.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm it gets confusing for me sometimes, because how can you really tell everyone that just to listen to their body when some of us have like mental things that make it so we literally can't listen to that? You know what I mean?
Oh, I do, Sid. And this is why even now it sounds like so kind that you want to understand this and almost have certainty for her. And then this is, I know if I wasn't in the job that I'm in, it would be, I know that when somebody's trying to alleviate the uncomfortable feelings, and maybe am going to get out of the relationship, but then all of a sudden now they feel this crippling sense of loss, or they say, okay, I just have to jump in with both feet. But then their body tells them this is silly and ridiculous. Maybe it's the vaginismus or anxiety ramps up. So then they go to what is wrong with me, because it's either or, black or white. So then when somebody's coming into the therapist, or I'm hearing this thing for the first time, now let's start working with real tools that are out there. And that's why I really like when somebody will go to a mental health professional, because I think the wrong tools are out there. So for her to have an acceptance that this is how she's feeling right now, then we are going to look at it more with the curiosity of what is going on in that moment. And if we have to try medication, we'll try medication. As she talked about trying one, and this is the part that I think is really difficult, there's a lot of different medications for better or worse. I was going to say, unfortunately. So I've had people that will take one, and then but you have to build up to it. Then you might have to wean off of it. Then you try another
trip. Like when you really think about it, like you just go to a doctor or psychiatrist or whatever, and they're like, try this one. Right. It might go terribly and not leave your system forever, or it might be perfect. Yeah. Like I understand why that's like a daunting.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. I do too. Because people will say, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that again. I don't want to get off of one to only wait a few weeks to try again too.
Yeah. But I feel like every step you do take is a step closer to finding like.
So that's what I say, but it's easy for me to say because I'm not them.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
But then it is like, because I've worked with enough people that eventually figure it out, whatever that means, that eventually they learned. and see, this is why it's so hard to say this to a bunch of people listening, is because everybody is different. There are so many different variables. Because if you have a lot of your own childhood wounding or stress, and let's say that guy is pretty safe and she does find that, that's why I was saying, and there are times where she feels that connection, but there are times where she doesn't. I mean, it ultimately, from a differentiated place, is a her thing. I mean, with love. So then she can now take a look at, when is it that I don't feel connected, and am I doing anything about it? And I think one of the hardest things is people will, and I had the book sitting up here, but this book about trauma, where people will say, okay, but I got, the body keeps the score. That's my body saying that I can't do it. But then it's difficult, because sometimes I'll say, okay, what did you think about the second half of that book, The Body Keeps the Score, or the things that it said to do about your body keeping the score? And that's where people will often say, oh, I didn't read the book, I've just heard of the concept. And it's like, yeah, because it talks about doing as much talk therapy as you can, or EMDR, or doing like movement therapy, or doing something like brain spotting, or, so it's like, what are you doing to then say, okay, this is how I'm presenting, but I want to have a connection with somebody. And so then if I'm just saying, I guess I don't, then I'm doing that thing where it'll be better later. Maybe it'll be better in the next relationship, or maybe it'll be better in a couple of months, or that sort of thing. But there's always work that can be done to then show up different in a relationship. But showing up different might mean, okay, now I'm doing yoga 3 times a week. I'm going to talk therapy. I've done some EMDR, and now I realize I'm good with where I'm at. I'm showing up, I'm being present, and I still don't feel that connection with this person. But now I know that I've done all I can do. And so I can now confidently say, I love you, person. You've been an amazing person to get me here, but it's not fair for either one of us, because you deserve more and I want more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does.
Yeah. So I think that one's so, but you can't even get close to that path until you start from a place of acceptance that this is how I feel, and I'm not broken. Nothing's wrong with me. I desire a connection with another human. And if I don't, then maybe I need to go to a therapist and say, that's normal. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay. That was good. That was deep, Tony.
Okay. I love that stuff though.
No, that I like. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Here's where we're going to end it tonight. Did you make it to the DMV?
I did. I actually did, you guys. Right? Didn't I?
Oh, yeah, you did. You did.
I did.
They just told you something that we didn't.
But now I have to go somewhere else. And so, am I going to do that? Probably not.
Tell me more about that.
They told me I have to go to like highway patrol or something. I'm like, well, literally, what is that?
It's the people that patrol the highway.
Why do I have to talk to them?
Because they're going to verify the VIN number in your car.
I can tell them the VIN number.
Okay. All right, everybody.
I don't get it.
What a joy.
But
thanks for being here tonight.
Maybe I'll check my email to see if they emailed me. I probably won't.
How many emails do you think are on your inbox thing right now? Thousands?
I don't know, bro.
Okay. Hey, and the other day I was asking if you checked the family Snapchat, because there's like some funny stuff from a while ago, and you said that you don't really look at that. And I was curious, how do you interact? Like, what's your interact? Oh, wait, would that be a form of doxing? No, I would say, how do you like to interact with people the most? Text, phone call, telegraph, carrier pigeon?
Phone call?
Really?
I don't know. I don't really like to interact
hello
with
kind of thing?
Just kidding.
Okay. I think it's funny when certain people, when you pick up the phone and they're already talking, because like that means, because back when I was a kid, the ring, and then you pick it up and you say hello. There's like this etiquette, but now you just start talking, right? Is that how you think it kind of works?
Yes.
Okay. So,
what are you talking about, old man?
Okay.
Just kidding.
Morse code. Morse code. There we go. Do you know what Morse code is?
No, yes, but I don't know it.
Okay. SOS. Which
SOS right now.
It means someone save me. I think the great Beyonce told us that. No, who sang that song? Kira? I don't know. She's the one that said hips don't lie. Now. No, I will not. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll be back on, do you decide Tuesday or Wednesday? I can do either one this week. It could be a little later.
Wednesday? Should we
Wednesday? Let's do Wednesday. Again? We'll be back on Wednesday night. We will talk more about, Rihanna. Thank you, Twitchy Fingers. I mean, save our souls. Oh, I thought it meant someone save me.
SOS, someone save me.
Isn't that in the song?
That doesn't make sense.
Save our souls, though, is probably the real thing. Yeah. Okay. Bye, real nerd. Okay. Twitchy Fingers, thank you. I always love when somebody just joins. You missed a lot. We solved basically all the problems in relationships.
No, yeah, we know everything about everything now.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we also solved both of our ADHDs.
We didn't even talk about that tonight.
because we don't have it anymore.
Oh, I did not know I fixed it.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Okay, have an amazing night. We will see you on Wednesday at 7:30.
Sounds good.
7:30 in the PM. Have a great week. Sign up for us, and
this will be re-uploaded to YouTube literally immediately.
Oh yeah, right.
Against my will, so go watch
exactly. Okay. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we gotta go over here. Okay, hold on.
And you.
Let's see.
YouTube.
Oh, okay. Look, the YouTube people. Is there anybody there? Nope.
Big crowd
I was
over
gonna
here.
say, hey, people on YouTube, they didn't see it. Yeah,
not all at once, you guys.
Right, it says
Chill
almost
in the
2 hours. It
comments.
says you have more new followers than 100% of live creators with a similar following over on the TikTok. So one of these days, Sid, I guess I just say to you, bye.
Bye.
And yeah, did anybody